When I first moved to uni, I was incredibly unprepared when it came to food. I'd always eaten dinner with my family, either sat on the sofa with trays or round the table. I never had to eat alone. So moving to uni, where everyone eats different food at completely different times, I was completely overwhelmed. I had visions of family mealtime and group cooking sessions, and in reality that just doesn't happen. I'm not sure why this is, why students don't club together, cook a meal for everyone. I mean, it makes sense, it's more economical and it's probably more practical. But yet, so many students don't do it. We sit on our own in isolation and we eat by ourselves and we cook by ourselves. But, well, why? I'm Amy Taylor and this is I Prefer Cooking, the podcast. This week's topic, group cooking. Whenever I go home, I always look forward to being cooked for. My mum will spend the 3 or 4 days cooking me meals and making far too many cups of tea. But it's not just the food, but the company I enjoy. There's something quite special about cooking and then sharing that meal you prepared. And while eating alone may not seem that unusual in this modern society, it actually can affect your mental health. Studies have shown that those who eat alone tend to be more likely to be depressed. Eating alone can also be expensive, and you can end up with a lot of food waste. My guest today is focused on eating in a group, or rather a mob. I first spotted Mob Kitchen on Facebook. Like myself, they are also a budget food outlet, but they focus on feeding 4 for under £10 to encourage people.
Hello?
Hi there, is that Benjamin?
It is, yeah.
Benjamin created Mob Kitchen to try and encourage people to eat healthier and try and prove that it's not complicated. With his easy food recipe videos, he's managed to create meals for under £10, which can feed a group, and a simple step-by-step recipes.
I've always been super into food, and Nigel Slater and Jamie Oliver and Hugh Fanny-Whittingstall were kind of my idols, and I never had any food training, but it was always sort of second nature for me, being able to throw together a quick pasta dish or, a salad or something like that. Flavor combos were things that I had quite a natural understanding of. And then I got to university, sadly couldn't cook in my first year, which was hell, but we moved into my first house with 4 flatmates in my second year, and quickly realized that kind of love of food and a sort of basic understanding of food and flavor combinations wasn't the norm. My best mate Paddy was cooking pesto pasta 5 nights a week and bacon sarnies on the other 2 nights. And whenever I wanted to think about getting a new recipe, I'd go on jamieoliver.com or BBC Good Foods. For people that didn't really have a love of food and relationship with it, who were students who I was contemporaries with, it didn't really feel like for them there was a kind of space that was theirs online that they had ownership of and could go to and find recipes on. So I wrote a little column in a student magazine with budget recipes in, and then kind of let that drop. But then 2 years later, there was that big explosion in sort of overhead bird's eye how-to food videos, which I was obsessed with, and so decided to hire out a film crew. We shot 20 recipes at the start of summer of 2016, all of them feeding 4 people for under a tenner. I wanted my food channel to be of a similar style to those ones, but actually making food people would really use, not just food porn and that kind of thing. Made the videos, then had to find the music for the videos, and I paid a friend to make the music for 10 of them, and then ran out of money, so had to approach some friends who were in bands and ask them if I could use their music, and they said yes. And so I put that music on the remaining 10 videos, and those videos did incredibly well. So that's why there's the kind of music theme to Mob Kitchen now, where we team up with young up-and-coming bands and musicians to provide music for all the videos. And yeah, so the videos were done, the music was done. Had to decide on a name, which was a pretty arduous process, but landed on Mob Kitchen as it was a kind of inclusive thing and everyone was involved. And then, launched in October of last year, and have just been kind of building and struggling since then.
So all of your meals are based at feeding 4 for under £10. Is group cooking important to you?
Incredibly important for lots of reasons. I think firstly having that time at the end of the day to put down your phone, put down your laptop, stand in the kitchen and focus on something, creating something together with your friends, and then sitting down and having a meal with them and having conversations with them and engaging with them and switching off from sort of like the day's events and especially screens is a really important thing. I think economically it's important because it's immeasurably more expensive kind of catering for one throughout the week. If you buy in bulk and you are economical with what you buy and you do it with your friends, it actually works out as being much cheaper. And yeah, I'd say they're the two main reasons for eating as a group as opposed to eating on your own, and not having that sort of special meal time at the end of the day. And it's something I grew up with at home. We always had family meals at the end of every day. And I think, it's obviously much more of a common thing when you're at school that you sit down with your siblings or your parents and have that kind of set dinner meal time. And I think that's somewhat lost at university. I think I admittedly at university kind of let that slide a lot. It was often me making a pot of soup in the kitchen on my own and going and sitting in my room and watching something on my laptop. And I think it's important to kind of have that moment at the end of the day, which seems to be getting lost.
How important is it to you, sort of as someone who was a student who cooked, that other students and young people really do get cooking and cook proper food, not just microwave meals?
What was frustrating for me is I found that I was able to cook really good meals quite cheaply when I was at university, but then, you heard everyone saying, oh, like, I'm going away from home, I'm going to have to eat, like, crap for the next 3 months, can't wait to get back home to my parents' kitchen, or I can, all this kind of thing. And it was frustrating. So I was like, we've grown up in this culture where when you think student recipe, you think baked beans on toast or, Marmite spaghetti or like, nothing inventive, nothing imaginative, nothing like that people can actually be proud of. And the mission with Mob Kitchen was to show people that you don't have to be enormously wealthy to cook kind of healthy, delicious food on a budget, and it's achievable for everyone. And kind of filming the videos in the way that we do, the music that we do, and the kind of the tone and the voicing that we put with, in our copy and in the videos as well, kind of makes that accessible for students in a way that I don't think was accessible for them, on Jamie Oliver platform or BBC Good Food or something like that.
Do you think there is a negative impact to eating alone?
Yeah, I think it's more expensive, and I think, obviously it's lonely, and I can't really see a positive behind it at all, actually.
Obviously, Mob Kitchen, it's all about cooking for the mob. What's your favourite meal to cook for all your family and friends?
The Mob Kitchen chicken gyros is my favourite. I never know how to pronounce it, gyros or gyros or gyro. There are so many pronunciations. I always get told off every time I say one of them. But yeah, that's the favourite, and that's the most popular video on our channel. It's such a great, easy dish to cook. Just simply grilling some chicken in a nice yogurt marinade with a fresh tzatziki and a tomato salad inside a warm pita. There's nothing better really, and it's so cheap and easy.
I haven't actually eaten lunch yet, and I'm now absolutely starving.
Definitely check that one out.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably hop on the YouTube channel now and have to check it out. It sounds really cool. I've no idea how to pronounce it either, though.
Yeah, I know. We've got to find out. Maybe I'll go to Greece and find out.
Yes, find out and share. So, with regards to cooking, if there was one key piece of advice you could give to students who want to get into cooking, what would that be?
Don't be afraid of going and buying some nice fresh herbs at a supermarket with some vegetables and some garlic and some olive oil and some balsamic vinegar, and just throwing something together. Because when people say, oh, all I can cook is pesto pasta or bacon sarnie or, I don't know, tomato pasta and tomato sauce, it's wrong. It means that you don't have the confidence at the moment in the kitchen to know that if you put garlic and basil and tomatoes and courgettes and grilled aubergines into a salad, it will be absolutely delicious. The things on Mob Kitchen, they're not complicated food. It's not difficult. It's just having a vague, basic understanding of the way that flavors go together and using that in a creative way in each different dish and changing it up a bit. So I would say just be confident, and if you're wanting to get into it, go to a supermarket and pick out a nice fresh basket of herbs and vegetables and some fresh meat, and just go and experiment.
Yeah, I do think that's probably the problem with a lot of students, and I've found through other interviews for the podcast that actually it is kind of confidence in education. Not many students know how to cook, and I think something like Mob Kitchen, what you do, is really educational.
But why, the problem is, there's no reason for students to know how to cook because there's no education about it. It's weird. It's like one of these It's the thing that you do 3 times a day. Sometimes it's probably the thing you do the most in your life, apart from sleep. It's one of the key things to keep you alive, eating. But you don't have a single even minute of education from the age of 0 to 19 when you're in school and education and at home about how to cook. And I got lucky. I lived in a household where there was a lot of cooking, and that kind of ingrained me with a real love of food. And I, took to television and learned more from that. But if neither of your parents cook and you're not that into it, then you're screwed when you get to university, because there's nothing there for you. You've never been taught anything. You don't have any understanding or any knowledge. And so the idea of having any idea about how to even put something in the oven and what's going to happen to it if you cook it at X amount of time for X, at X heat, you don't have a clue. And I think that was a really interesting learning curve for me. There are people who are asking these kind of questions under the videos which I hadn't made clear in the recipes, and when I first saw them I was like, oh my god, my audience are idiots. And then suddenly I was like, well, actually no, they're not. They're a product of a system that hasn't educated them in a way that they should have been.
What do you think can be done to fix this, because it is a problem?
I think some very basic home ec classes being compulsory at schools, just taking people into a school canteen and just showing them how do you fry an egg, how do you the basics. How do you boil pasta? How long do you put a chicken in the oven to, roast it? And how do you check if it's done? And this wouldn't take very long, and it's very kind of hands-on learning. So it would, sit in the memory. And yeah, I think that's it really. I think very basic lessons or tutorials at school or something which can just kind of hammer home the basics and leave people in a much better stead than they're in now.
Definitely, I think you're completely right. There is this real lack of knowledge when it comes to cooking. It's the second most thing we do in our lives, yet so many people don't know how to do such basic things. I know when I came to uni, it was the exact same for me. I didn't know how to cook rice or how to boil pasta, and it's such a basic thing, yet a lot of people don't really know how to do it. And I don't know whether it is education in school or what we can do to really solve this.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to counter bit by bit with this. But yeah, maybe there does need to be a more sort of structural approach to it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's something that's important, and I'm hoping that kind of through this podcast and just through chatting with you, we've been able to kind of do that. So thank you very much for talking to me.
No worries. Cheers, bye.
Talking with Benjamin really took me back to when I first went to uni. I felt slightly alone when it came to cooking because, unlike my friends, I actually enjoyed cooking. I loved being in the kitchen, and I really enjoyed creating a meal, and there were a few occasions where we'd all club together and we'd cook a group meal. And I remember those times being so happy and so exciting. And I really think that talking with Benjamin and the whole idea of Mob Kitchen has really brought that to light. If you want to see more of the Mob Kitchen recipes, you can always check out their YouTube channel as well as their website mobkitchen.co.uk. As for me, as always, I'm on iprefercooking.co.uk. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please do hit subscribe if you did, so you can get the rest of the podcast downloaded as they go live. Thank you again for listening. I'm Amy. Bye!